Hello everybody, welcome back to Cloudwings Technology. My name is Bahadur and today this is day 2 and in this session you will learn Kubernetes architecture and all its components. So let's get started today's session. So what exactly the Kubernetes? Kubernetes is container orchestration software which is follow cluster architecture. Cluster means group of servers. Like here one control plane, this is also called master node and their worker nodes. So this is called master and worker node architecture or cluster architecture, right? So to understand the Kubernetes architecture, right, you have to understand components of each worker node as well as master node. So, and also you have to understand tool or GUI options in order to interact with the control plane. So here you can see control plane is having some components and worker node has also some components. So if you understand these components, then you will be master of the architecture of the Kubernetes. So let's see guys how you can interact with control plane and what exactly the control plane and what exactly the worker node. So control plane is a brain of the Kubernetes. Control plane is the brain of the Kubernetes, right? From this control plane, entire Kubernetes will be handled. So being a DevOps engineer, you need to interact with this control plane and control plane will handle these worker nodes, right? So in order to communicate with control plane, you can either go with UI or GUI interface, right? So you have two options, GUI interface and CLI interface. For GUI interface, you can use online dashboards provided by third-party tools, right? Instead, and second way is you have CLI. So tomorrow we will learn how you can set up your own kubectl software in order to interact with the control plane. So here this kubectl is like a software which is allow you to interact with your control plane. From this CLI, you will give your instructions, your command to control plane. Control plane has some components. So let's see what happen after you fire a command to the control plane. So whenever you fire a command from your CTL, right, kubectl, command will goes to control plane API server. What is the API server? API server, this is the where which is monitor whatever the instruction is given by the kubectl. It will read that instruction and store into the etcd. Here etcd is a internal object database of Kubernetes. So it will store whatever the information related to master node and worker node. So then you have the scheduler. Scheduler will make sure your ports are up in the worker nodes, and it will distribute how many ports will be run inside each worker node. So that thing will be decided by this scheduler. Then you have the control manager. So this is like a manager who will ensure is everything is working fine or not. If the port get down, right, so control manager up that port, right? So this is what components of the control plane. Now guys, just like control plane, every worker node will be having some components. Like a worker node will be having pod. Like worker node will be having pod. You can see worker node will be having pod. Pod can have in single worker node, multiple pod can be there, or in single pod, multiple container can be run. In interview, somebody may ask you, can a worker node have multiple pods? You can say yes, definitely one worker node can have multiple pods. And is it possible a pod is having multiple containers? Yes, it is also possible. So this is pod. So pod is the smallest building block of the Kubernetes, right? What is pod? Pod is the smallest building block. Inside the pod, your container will be running, and inside your container, your application will be running, right? So this is where your actual application is running, right? So actual application is not running in the control plane, but in worker node. So this is the first component. Second, we have the Docker runtime. You can either call it runtime or Docker engine. This is very important in order to create the containers. So Docker engine, we need to create the containers, right? If there is no Docker engine, then how you will create a containers. So in order to create a container, we need Docker runtime. So every worker node will be having one Docker daemon, right, to create the containers. Right. Second thing, kubelet. Guys, kubelet. This is the kubelet. So kubelet is like an agent, right? Kubelet is like an agent, and every worker node is having the kubelet, and kubelet will be having all the worker node related information, like how many pods does it having, how many containers is running in the pod, right? So all this information will be this kubelet is having, right? So these information kubelet will give to your API server. API server will read that information and store inside the UTC and check. This will check, and then scheduler will check. Okay, it will check the desired state. It will check the desired state of your desired state and maintain the actual state of the resources. So this is how the flow is work. Then you have the kube-proxy. Guys, just like you have learned about the Docker networking. So there is Docker networking in order to communicate with container to containers. Just like we have in Kubernetes kube-proxy in order to establish the cluster level communication. Like, so your pod need to communicate with each other. Your worker node need to communicate with the control plane. So this is what the scenario where you need the kube-proxy, right? So this is, guys, actual the Kubernetes architecture, and I hope you like today's video. If you like, please like the video, and if you want to master the Kubernetes, please subscribe the our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. See you in the tomorrow's video.